are now coming to you live. Okay, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome. Glad that you guys are here, and this is going to be an exciting show. We have a little technical glitch we're working out on our optional alternative Facebook page, but for right now, we've got you guys here at Technique Tuesday, so welcome. Glad that you're tuning in, whether it's live or recorded. And IGTV, we've already said hi, so good to see you there. And wherever you're watching from, YouTube, glad you're here. I am Coach Clay Banks. I am here in Clay Banks Studio International, an on-camera empowerment performance studio where we train people to work professionally in front of the camera. And I am in a series right now. This is, oh, you know what we need to do? I was wondering why I'm dealing with, I'm fighting with Jack Johnson over there. Okay, great. Thank you. What's going on today? We have background music playing we neglected to turn off, so we're good now. This is a series called the Pilot Season Prep Series, and we are in session 3 of 5. And so if you're just tuning in now and you would like to go back, and they are numbered, session 1, session 2, of course 3, and then we will complete it with 5. The first session was all about your product, very powerful stuff, so you might want to go back and check that out. And the second session was about not getting a second chance at making a first impression and the important 4 steps of the auditioning process. To do a quick review for those of you that have been following along, what's number 1? First thing that happens with an audition. You've got your entrance. That's where you're making your first impression. How you actually enter the room, whether it's the real room or the Zoom room, how you make that entrance, and you can go back and check all that out. Number 2 is your interview, not to be confused with the performance. And the interview is where they are getting to know us. Okay, so we've covered all that in pretty good detail, so you can go back and check that out on number 2. And 3, what I'll be talking about today and in this session is going to be, are you trying to land the role or are you winning the room? And we're going to discuss that and give you 10 key bullets from top casting directors to help you out. And we do have show notes for each one of these shows and for the whole series. So at any point you would like a copy of the show notes, all you have to do is email us at info@claybankstudio.com, and my producer, when they finish with the technical issue, will post that in the chat, and you will have that information for you, as well as anything else I cover that you'll need. And if you have any questions, please just go ahead and put them in the chat wherever you are, and we will get back to you live. We'll get back to you right away, and if not, we will get back to you at some point, depending upon when you are actually asking us the questions. Okay, sound good? Great. All right, let's get started with this. Now, the title of this is, are you looking to land the role or win the room? So what does that actually mean? A lot of it has to do with mindset. So I just want to discuss mindset with you right now. The difference between landing the role and winning the room has to do with, are you looking at trying to get a job or are you looking to build a career? So I want you to think about that. Wherever you're tuning in from, think about that. Are you trying to get a job or are you building a career? Now, the majority of the answers, people go, oh, wow, I've not quite thought about that before. And now when you think about it, it's usually you're in there to try to get a job. I just want to land this audition. I just want to land this audition. And that's what tends to happen an awful lot. I want to encourage you to think about it a different way, to shift your attitude to, I'm not just looking to get a job, I'm looking for a career. Now here's why. And then we're going to roll into a review and we'll continue to go through this, which will be really, really powerful and exciting. I guarantee you. Okay, and if not, we will pay you your money back. So wherever you're tuning in from, just let us know and we'll pay you whatever you paid. Okay, so here's what I want you to think about. When you are going out for an audition, let alone pilot season, you're going out into a room with people that you don't necessarily know. You don't know who's watching. Even if you don't see a camera, there could be a camera there. Most of the time we are being recorded, and where's the recording going to go? To a lot of eyes, if you're good. To a lot of eyes. If you're not very good, it goes as far as who's ever in that room, most likely, and it doesn't move any further. And so that's why we're doing this, to help you to be real good. So when you're in there just trying to land a job, you're trying to get that role, you're trying to get that job, and I get the mentality, and there is something to it. But I want you to think a little bit more outside the box. That if you're going out for somebody, let's just bring it home to pilot season as we're talking about that right now. Pilot is a show, it's the first show to help sell a show concept. Now, sometimes people will, if they have a budget, if it's a studio, they will shoot more than one episode. They'll shoot 3. They could possibly shoot 6. They could shoot a season, just depending on so many factors I'm not going to take the time with in this particular session, which we'll get into in the last 2, 4 and 5 of this series. And then I have a real special treat for you guys that hang in there till the end. Something really, really exciting, and you're not going to want to miss this. So this is going to be a big teaching for you guys. When you're going out and you're in that room, this is your opportunity to let people know who you are and what you can do. Now, there's a really good chance, if not a lot of good chance, that you're not going to be completely right for the actual role that you're going out for. Or somebody else is just a lot better. Happens often, okay? So if you're just going in there with the mentality of trying to get that job, and you're not going in there with the mentality of trying to win the room, you're sort of missing out on all the other people that are looking at you, plus all the other roles that are available in that show, for that season, for that series. Think about it, right? If the show gets picked up, they're going to do a series. How many episodes? My gosh, it could be anything from 6 to 16. I mean, there's no rules to it anymore. So let's say they're doing 12 episodes. If they're doing 12 episodes, and you look at how many characters, guest stars and co-stars are going to be coming into those shows, that's a lot of casting, a lot of work. So if you're not right for the one you're going in for, you might be really great for an episode coming up, and possibly an episode that hasn't even been written yet. Think about that. Now, when the show gets picked up and the show is a hit, and you're going to do another season, pretty good chance you're going to do another season. Not guaranteed, but and another one, and you want to run. If you can get 6 years out of a show, I mean, not just you, but if a show can get 6 years, that's a pretty good run, okay? Welcome, Facebook. Facebook, you missed out on the introduction, but that's okay. You can pick it up on our IGTV if you want to catch it, and if not, welcome. And Facebook's just jumping in right now, and you're going, wait, I'm on Facebook. We have multiple Facebook feeds that are taking place here. So again, I am Coach Claybanks, and this is the pilot season prep. Are you trying to win the room or land the role? And so when you think about it that way, I want you also to think about this. Eyeballs that watch this, in our business, many people, most of the people are contracted. That means you work a deal out on a project and you say, hey, I'm going to come in as an assistant AD. Okay? And you come in as an assistant AD, but you work as an AD often. You might work as a producer, but you're helping out and you're coming out doing another role. You see, we move around an awful lot. So when somebody comes in and they don't look like they're maybe important, because they're just in that room for a reason, especially when you start going through the callback process, people start to appear. It's like, who are they and what do they do? It's not our business. But think about it this way. When that happens, you might be dealing with possibly even a PA on one project. And then that person is also going to be directing, or might be in the process of directing, even casting another project. So I just want you to kind of think outside the box, that you're always auditioning, you're always presenting yourself, all the time, because you never know when that job's going to come down. And many of you are familiar with the story. I'll just tell it real quick about the series that I was on, LA Heat. I didn't audition for it, not for that role. I auditioned for a movie with the production company and the same casting director a year earlier. They didn't even know they were going to do this show, most likely. Then the show comes out a year later. They had a fallout of a character. The casting director was in a pinch, remembered me doing a good job for them on a movie a year ago, and called me directly to set, and I stayed on the show for almost 2 years as a series regular. So you don't know who you're talking to, how it's going to come down. So always think about you as a career person. You're always looking to build opportunities to develop relationships with different people, because you never know when they're going to be doing what, when a word is going to be shared, when your name comes up. So keep all of that in mind. Okay? Now, let's go to a quick review on a key important thing before you perform, and that's warm-ups. I talked about it in session 2, the importance of your warming up your instrument before you actually go in to perform. Now, at time of taping, we're in a pandemic, all right? A lot of Zoom room stuff taking place. And it isn't a far stretch to be thinking, okay, well, you park yourself in front of your camera, in front of your computer, and you sit in your chair, and now you do all your stuff, and you do all your stuff, and you're going from meeting to meeting, or maybe you're just working on your computer or screwing around on social media, and then your audition comes up. You're right there in the same comfort seat, you're going with the same comfort energy, and now you're trying to give a performance out of a comfort zone? Come on, do I have to say any further? It doesn't make any sense. And I find, as being a performance coach and an empowerment coach, and I used to empower executives and business professionals and salespeople for a Fortune 500 company for 10 years. So I've worked all around the line. I've worked with entrepreneurs, I've worked with world shakers and history makers, I've worked with regular salespeople, tons of industry people and actors. So lots of different mentalities in the way people approach things. And out of all of those groups, the people that I find it's so ridiculously ridiculous that actors don't warm up more often than they do warm up, which makes no sense. So if you're listening and you're watching right now, warm your instrument up before you get started. Now you might go, well, what does that look like? Simple breathing and speaking. So we're going to do a little exercise right now of breathing and speaking. I did some power breathing with you in previous episodes, so I'm just going to show you another way to breathe. There's all kinds of different ways to empower your breath. This is called breath of fire. Power breathing was the previous episode, and also you'll catch me on what I call artist adventures, which are creative genius refreshes, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. They're so huge. It's so important for you to, in your pursuits of trying to survive and strive and get work and build your resumes and websites and manage your lives and all that things. It's easy to forget the product, and the product is the creative artist, and that's us. That's the artist actor, and it's what we bring. And so many people get so caught up in the minutia of survival that when it comes time for you to perform, you're not even in your performance arena. You're not even close to it because you haven't visited it. I'll give you an idea. Last night, I had an acting buddy, friend of mine, come over to the studio. We just had a little hang time, catch up kind of a deal. We're good friends, and we just have to make appointments to see each other because we're both so busy. And we shared about each other's lives, and it came up, and he knows my teaching on the survivalist and the creative genius. And I looked at him and I said, your survivalist is, and he said, my survivalist is operating at about 90+% right now. I said, I know, it gets a little crazy. He goes, there is so much stuff coming from so many different angles. I'm giving less than 10% to my artist. And it happens. Life will consume you if you don't push back. I get consumed by it. Running an acting studio, and I run a few businesses, it's easy to get consumed, especially when electronics goes cattywampus, right? Okay, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just lost 4 hours fixing this glitch. I mean, it gets crazy, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. And when that happens, you have to make sure that you counter back by getting into your creative zones. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but that creative zone can be anything where you disconnect from the internet. You disconnect from your phone. Oh, I can hear the screams all over the place right now. No, no. It's like, yes, yes. You disconnect from all of that and you get off by yourself and you refresh. That's your responsibility as an artist, to bring fresh artistic value to everything that we do, especially empowering a character. But I'm going to move on. So this breathing right here, this is called the breath of fire. And it's quick and it's powerful. And here's what I would like you guys to do. I want you to, I would stand up, but I have so many cameras on me right now, it's going to screw up everything going on. So I just want you to take your fingers. Take your fingertips right now and put them just on your belly, like where the six-pack is supposed to be, right? Okay, right there around your belly button and a little below it and a little above it. Just get right there on your belly. If you're not sure where it is, do this. Okay, just go. Everybody, right now, just go. Okay, now when you do that, you feel your belly push out. Now you can stand for this, and if you have the room to do so, if I didn't have all these cameras around me, I would be standing right now. But I want you to just see where that belly pushes out and put your fingertips right there. All right, got your fingertips there? You can do it seated. I'm going to do it seated for you right now. And now we're going to take a series of breaths that are going to look like this. Okay, and that's it. It's just in and out. Now, some of you are breathers and you do different breathing exercises. There are all sorts of breathing exercises, and if you study with me over a period of time, I will share a plethora of breathing exercises with you that all do different things, okay? But with the time that we don't have, we're going to cover the breath of fire today, and then you can go back and pick up some of the other breathing exercises. But highly, highly, highly encourage you to do these exercises before you start to perform, whether it's an audition, especially a performance. I mean, my goodness, think about it. You'll be running around from this to that to this to that. Hey, they call you to set, you're on set, and you forget to get ready. And now you're flying by the seat of your pants, and you're not doing your best work. Don't do that. You've got a responsibility to this. Put your fingers on your belly right now, and I just want you to breathe with me. We're going to do about 16 of these breaths. I'm going to get my producers to do it as well. Everybody's going to breathe along. Quit kicking the cameras and shaking everybody around, and we're going to breathe. So put your stuff down, put your fingers on your belly, and just follow along with me. And if you lose beat or lose stride, don't worry about it. Just take a half a step, catch back up, and breathe along. Then on the last breath, I'm going to breathe it in and I'm going to compress it. I obviously won't be able to talk and do this at the same time, so I'm prepping you guys for it right now. So the last breath will go in, and I'm going to breathe into my lower belly and then breathe into the lungs. Just think about that. Don't breathe into the lungs first. You want the breath to go into the lower part of the lungs before the top part of your lungs. It keeps you from becoming a shallow breather and a shallow talker where you have no power and it's just weak and there's no dynamic, and you got to get past that and you got to start using full lungs, and then we'll get into diaphragmatic breathing by 5 probably, where you're really using that diaphragm muscle to work for you in your breathing process. So on the last breath, I will go, when I breathe all the way up, you're going to breathe all the way in. You're going to push that air down into your belly. Then you're going to wait a few seconds, and we're going to squeeze in another 3 breaths. Then you're going to hold, and you're going to feel that oxygen going through your bloodstream, just filling up the cells of your body. And then we will exhaust it, and we will come to a resting place. All right, here we go. Breath of fire. Fingers on your belly, and here we go. Let it all go. Okay? Come to breathe normal. Okay. Simple little breathing exercise, simple little warm up. It can be done anywhere in less than 45 seconds. It oxygenates your system. It can do two things. It can calm your nerves and increase your energy. Okay? So breathe and get that breath in, get those lungs working for you. Remember, we are wind instruments. Yes, we are instruments, but we are wind instruments. We use our wind to communicate through our voice and our vocal cords. So that's a simple little breathing exercise there. Now, you should warm up your mouth. And you can do this a few different ways. You can do it with voice exercises like, say this after me, red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather. Red lily, yellow lily. Red lily, yellow lily. Simple little warm-ups. Unique, New York. Unique, New York. New York is quite unique. Unique, New York. Unique, New York. New York is quite unique. And then you can try speeding it up and speeding it up. Simple little exercises. You can go online and get a lot of these type of things. Or you can just basically grab copy. You just grab any piece of copy. I got a stack of it here. I'm just grabbing one at random. And you can grab a piece of copy. Let me see if I can grab a line. Any one of your lines. These are all short lines. Let me grab some. This is all quick switch dialogue. Here we go. Here's something with a little bit of dialogue in it. Owen sits and lists things in his apartment on the site, so I didn't have to do it. Owen sits and lists things on, listen to that right there. That's crazy. I would have to work through that dialogue. I just grabbed this at random. But you take the words, you take your dialogue, and you go through it and go through it and go through it and go through it and go through it. You shower, you get ready, you eat. Obviously not while you're putting food in your mouth, unless you're Brad Pitt, and then you're amazing at it. But you do everything. You drive, you go for a walk, a hike, you do everything, working these lines, working these lines, working these lines. So especially when you're getting ready to warm up, just take your lines and work them over. Say them. Get the instrument heated up, impassioned, excited, and ready to perform, because the key thing that you've got to get good at, and this might sound weird, but you've got to get good at being watched and being looked at and being judged and being critiqued and being observed, and all these things that are called politically wrong words. You should not stare at people. You should not judge people. Then don't come into show business, because that's all we do here. I mean, the auditioning process is completely about finding out everything we can find out about you to make sure we're casting the right person. And now if you're going in for an under 5, that sort of thing, you're not going to get looked at the same way as if you're going in for a co-starring role, as you're going to get looked at if you're going in for a guest starring role, as you're going to be looked at if you're going in for a series regular role. They're going to spend more time with you based on how significant and heavy the part is. Okay? All right. So moving on. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and write them down. We're going to get into some good stuff right now. Now, once you've made your first impression and you've had your interview, and you can go back and find out more about that in 1 and 2. For 3, we're talking about how about the performance. Okay? You're warmed up, you're in the room, you've got your monologues down. And again, if you're just tuning in right now, me personally, I encourage all my actors to have nothing less than 3 performance level monologues ready to go, contrasting monologues at any given point in time. Now, I meet people for the first time all the time. I do a lot of privates in my studio and via Zoom. And I just had a woman in here yesterday, hadn't met her before. She was referred to me by, I think, an agency or management company. And she came in and I got a chance to meet her. And I said, okay, I need to find out a little bit about where you are. Could you perform a monologue for me? She said, well, I don't have one. She goes, well, I have one, but it's at home and it's not ready. And I'm like, well, no, you've already blown it. You're an actor. If you don't have, I mean, think about it this way. If you're a race car driver and you don't have a car, You know, what are we doing? You waiting around to get an Uber? You going to borrow one? I mean, you have to have your vehicle ready to go and perform. That's your monologue, and you get to pick them, you get to work on them, and you get them ready so that you are so excited that you can't wait for somebody to say, hey, do you have a monologue? Yeah, absolutely. I got a comedic and a dramatic. They're about a minute long. Which would you prefer? Great. Here we go. Now you're in the game. Now you're somebody to deal with. Okay? We talked about that in, I think, session 2. You can cover that. Also, having a joke ready, a clean joke that's non-offensive, having a little anecdote or story that you can tell that just hits its point and lands without taking, a whole lot of time. You can do that within 40 seconds. You need to be ready for all these things. Go back and review if you haven't. Okay, now, moving forward, you're getting ready to do your read. Now, here's the thing. I've been in this business a long time. And it used to be you would get your sides, and you could often, it wouldn't be odd for you to have your sides for a week. That would not be odd. I don't hear of that hardly any. And I don't hear about that anymore, hardly, ever. It's like it's getting closer and closer. It's 2 days to 36 hours. We're getting a lot of same day, and when pilots come in and things start coming down, they might go through an entire casting session and not find what they're looking for. And they'll say to their assistant, shoot this breakdown out now. We got to look at people this afternoon and tomorrow. And now you get it. You go, oh, this is perfect for me. When does it due? What? Happens all the time. Quick, I just got a call from one of my students in Las Vegas. Coach Banks, I know I haven't seen you for a while, but my agent told me I should get coaching for this multi-page read, for this big job. And I'm like, well, yeah, you should be coaching and training you should be training all the time so you're ready for those things because they're coming down like crazy. So you want to be ready for it. Now, when you're prepping your material, here's some of the things I want you to be aware of. This is so powerful that years ago I created what's called the cold reading checklist. Now, some of you might have this because it's really common with my teaching. And it is a very clear and concise checklist of what it is that an actor should have in place before they're ready to read. Now, I will often get with an actor I haven't worked with before. Now, if you're in my studio and I'm working with you, then you know this is how it works because I teach this. It's part of my process. There you go, right there, the process. It's part of the process of how we go about this. And my process isn't all this convoluted stuff. It's very succinct and it's to the point. It's like you have to know what it is that you're doing. We're telling stories, and stories come out of relationship. Relationship comes out of intimacy. Intimacy comes out of your ability to share yourself, share your emotions, share those personal sides of yourself. And then if you really want to be stellar, you have to be able to allow the love level, that humanity that's in us to come through the work. That's a whole nother teaching for another time. But those are the basic 5 things that we are doing. We're telling stories. That's what life is all about. It's what Facebook and Instagram and the platforms are all built on. Look at my story. Here's my story about my sneakers. Here's a story about the food I'm about ready to eat. Here's my cup of coffee. I mean, you're sharing stories. Now, maybe you're on a mountaintop in some cool place. You're sharing stories. So we are sharing internal and external stories, plus those stories are told well when they come out of relationship. And this is something that people leave out in their reads an awful lot, especially monologue performances. You leave out the relating, the relatability, and you just start telling us stuff. We don't care what you tell us. We want to know what you share with us and what we experience with you. That's the job of the actor. Get that. Not what you say, but what you are allowing, what you are bringing to us. And now, if you're pent up as a human being, think about it. What's happened all of 2020? People have been isolated a lot, and you can fall into that trap. I've had numerous people I've run into over the past few months tell me, I love this whole thing. I love being locked down. It works for my personality. I'm like, okay, hopefully you're not an actor. Because I mean, actors have to be around people. You have to have an enjoyment, and you have to be able to share yourself. That's the relatability. More interesting relationships come out of more intimate relationships. Now, how you do that is you have to be able to share yourself. Okay, and you're sharing and you're caring. You go, well, this is a bad guy, and he wants to kill her, she wants to kill him, or whatever it is. And it's like, well, you're going into the wrong place, because now you're locking off the humanity. That's the difference between a D or a C level movie, even B movies, as compared to an A movie. An A-list movie, the bad guy's going to be lovable, likable. You're going to say, I hate to like this person, but I do. I want the bad guy to win. I mean, because the actor really knows how to mix that up, like Charlize Theron in Monster, or Kathy Bates in Misery, or even Tom Cruise in Collateral, Robert De Niro in Cape Fear. I mean, it's just on and on. Sir Anthony Hopkins in Hannibal Lecter. I mean, these are these monstrous characters that we're like, why, I like them. Why? And many of them have won awards playing these characters, because they bring in the love level. They allow the humanity to come through. So don't walk into an audition. Don't try to land a pilot episode without you sharing a personable aspect of yourself and then allowing the love to come into the work, which is a whole nother thing for another time. So, okay, when I ask people, okay, what's your process? Well, there's so much hobby-jobby stuff and trying to figure it out or quote something from a book. It's crazy. You have to have a process of being able to break down a piece of material and being able to break it down right away. Now, why? Because you need to. Now, here's a situation where you go, well, I have plenty of time to do that. No, you don't. These things are coming down really, really fast. As my mother used to say, they come down ricky-ticky, son. You know, ricky-ticky. She loved that word, meaning it happens right away. And you have to have the ability to do that. Here's how quick it can happen. So let's just jump to the most extreme case scenario. You get 2 or 3 days with the material. You get with a coach, a smart person, and you work that material up. Okay? You got that material up, you're locked and loaded, you can't wait to get into that audition. You go in that audition and you read, and you do a great job. You really do. And they know you did a great job. However, the person that came in 5 people before you totally crushed it, and they've already made their decision on who they want to go with, and it's going to be really tough to beat that person. But they like you, and they like your work. So they say, you know, that was good. I have to be honest with you. We have another part we think you might be better for. Would you mind reading this? And now they hand you the sides for another character you know absolutely nothing about. What are you going to do? Oh, let me go home for a couple of days and come back? No, you can't do that. They'll say, would you like a little time and go in and go in the other room, or would you like to go in a breakout room and then you take that time. How much time do you think you're getting? You're getting minutes. You're getting minutes. Now, when that happens to me, and I only encourage this to you, this is coming with a warning. Only do this if you are highly trained and highly skilled at doing this. Do not do this if you're not, because chances are you're going to blow it. What I like to do when those situations come down and they say, oh, I say, great, oh, fantastic, who's the character? They say, Jim. I said, sure, I'll read for Jim. Would you like a few minutes with the material? I said, no, let me just review it real quick. I scan it real quick. I know my basics, which I'm going to go over with you guys right now. I know my basics. I know how to find the story, and I know how to cold read. And what that does is it keeps me from falling in the gray zone of not being fully prepared and not knowing how to cold read and giving a crappy performance. And you're impressive as all get out. Think about that. You're there, you're like a badass. You're there, you just blew their doors away. They hand you another role, give you time to go review it, and you go, no, let me just go over it. Okay, I'm good, let's go. Now it's like, you got them in your hands because they want to see what you can do. And when you can deliver, that's how you crush the room. That's how you win it all. They go, I want to work with this person. This person's professional. If I can't get them on this project, I'm getting them on another project. But somehow we're getting them in this project. And I know this happens to people because it's happened to me, where I was good enough as an actor, but there wasn't a character for me on that project, and they actually wrote a character in for me. And if you've ever had that happen, man, does that feel great. They write a character in for you because they want you on the project. That's what you should be working towards. And it's not going to happen by wishing and praying and hoping. It's going to happen by doing what you're doing right now, taking the time to learn, to receive information from professionals, and also to continue to work out. You've got to be able to continue to work out. All right, so let me give you these steps. And if you take notes, I would highly advise you taking notes. But if you miss any of it, last week I covered my camera. Sorry for any of you that watched episode 2. I covered the camera with the script. But anyway, I'm not doing that now. Might be in the way of a few things, but that's okay. So these are some basic bullets. And if you are interested in having this, we're putting it in the show notes. All you have to do is, again, go to info@claybankstudio.com. Let us know you want the checklist or the show notes, and we will shoot those off to you. Okay, so in your cold reading, in your preparation for the work, you want to learn as much as you possibly can by reading everything you possibly can with the time that you don't have. Read everything. A lot of times there'll be stage direction, there'll be director's notes, there'll be a casting director a breakdown, speaking to the actors. Read everything. Read the other parts. What? Yeah, read. If you don't like reading, go do something else right now. Let me save you time. If you don't like to read, go do something else. You're not going to do well in this business, okay? Read everything. And you'll often get scripts. I don't know if I have one just right here, maybe. These are all miscellaneous audition sides. You'll get scripts that are crossed out. Here, perfect. Okay, so here's, I just coached somebody on this. This was a really great part. It was a lead in a feature opposite John Hamm. What do you know? One of my actors had the opportunity to do that, and she's waiting to see what happened. It was a killer audition. Just sides. Your basic sides that come in, but you're going to see this page right over here. This page, it says stop, and then it's crossed out. Not uncommon. It's very, very common. It's like you don't need to worry about that for your role. Read it. Read everything you can to learn everything you can about everything that you can, because it's just going to give you more information. When you read, and the situation allows for it, read aloud. Don't read quietly to yourself. This is huge. The more you read to yourself, the more you're embedding the information inside you. You want to read it out. You want the voice, the tongue, the mouth, the instrument to get used to reading these lines. Get used to reading everything. I encourage my actors, when you're parked at a stoplight and you see a billboard, read it out loud. You're working on your cold reading skills all the time. That's free training. No money, no time, very little effort and energy. You're working your instrument by reading aloud, okay? Read and get with yourself. Often when you're in acting class or you're doing one of these casting director workshops or an agency manager showcase or whatever it might be, you get teamed up with somebody, and this is really common. You get your sides and you go, oh, usually my partner, you want to go read? Yeah, let's go outside and read. No, don't do that. Sure, people do it all the time and people tell you to do it. I'm telling you, as an advanced coach, you want to work through the things you need to get worked through first. You got to find out what's going on for you as opposed to working with another actor right away. Now, it's okay if you do, but my point is you got to do your work. And you're not memorizing at this point. You're working on your cold reading, so keep that in mind. Speaking the words out loud, and when you hit speed bumps, like that little speed bump I told you a little earlier, where's that copy? Oh, it's right here. That copy, that tricky little line that was in there. When you run into a combination of letters, words, syllables, whatever it might be, Owens lists in his apartment, Owens lists. I mean, that's a little tough. I call that a speed bump. You would want to work that over. Owens lists. You've got to train the tongue on what it's doing, kind of like anything else that you're training. You're training the discipline of the way the muscles have to work. Okay, now, you're looking for 3 basic core dynamics when you're breaking down a piece of copy. You want to know who you are and who the other person is, and not just titles. I'm the cop. She's the nurse. He's the nurse. She's the cop. Whatever. Stay away from just titles and start working on adjectives and character traits. Who am I? I'm the cop. I'm a shady cop with underlying intentions to cheat and deceive, but to not get caught. Ooh, now that gives us some meat on the bone. It gives us some things to work with. Who am I? Who is the other person? Don't just give them a title. I'm a dad, that's my child. Well, is every father-child relationship the same? No. I mean, of course not. And your objective is to bring in interesting choices based around what the writer's intent is. You can't rewrite the script. You have to know what the writer is meaning, and then you go ahead and make your choices on top of that. Knowing who the two characters are, what the relationship is between you and the other character or characters, and then here's a scale you want to work with, and it's called the familiar scale. So on a flat plane right here of 180 degrees, we're going to have over here extremely familiar, unfamiliar. So unfamiliar would be some character you're meeting for the first time. Becoming familiar is you met them and now you're talking with them. A little bit more familiar, somebody you've seen or known before. You know about them, they're not brand new, you're kind of familiar with them. I'm familiar, I run into this person pretty regularly. This person is now in my inner circle, here's my BFF. Okay? That's your 180 degrees of familiarity. And it's important to kind of know at least where and what level of newness or familiarity you have with the character that you're working with. It's really important, so you're going to want to work on that because it shows you understand where the character is coming in and whatnot. Okay, who the other person is, who the relationship is, and you want to know the what. What is it that's going on in this particular scene? If the cameras are on it and the writing made the edit, it hasn't been edited out of the script, and we're going to be saying it, what is actually going on and taking place? What's your objective? What do you need? What do you want? What's your motivation to move forward? What do you have to have from the scene, from the other person? And what do you got to do to get it? That drive has to be there, or else you're just sitting there. You're just, well, you got great Meisner training because you're aware and you're present and your eyes are there, but I'm not seeing there's a story inside you. And that's what the want, the what, the drive, the motivation is. It's the story of the character after something, okay? So you have to know your what, your who, your what, and then your where. And your where is everything is taking place someplace. Actors often don't do the work to bring the location with them into the performance. They just stand on industrial carpet in front of boring walls with people on the other side and possibly a camera, and you're just in a room. Your performances are so much more rich and more contrasty when you can bring the imagination of the location in with you wherever it is that you're going, okay? And you bring that in as well. Now, when you start prepping these things, and there are other things that are on this sheet. If you'd like it, just go ahead, info@claybankstudio.com, and we'll send you this checklist, and you can go over it, and you should go over it and go over it and go over it until it's innately built in inside you, and you know what to do with every piece of material before you attack it, and you can get there that fast. Ricky-ticky. Okay? And you're going to want to have that ability to be able to do that, because if you are hot, and I don't know who's watching this, you could be hot. And what's hot? You're going out all the time. Or you're going to get hot. That means that, you're doing a few auditions a day, 4 or 5 days a week, all the time. Now, when I was working as an actor, I was constantly going somewhere, doing something, auditioning, callback, wardrobe shoots, whatever. And I'd often have to ask, production, I'd say, hey, listen, on lunch, can I slip out of here? I got another audition. And, you know, if they were cool, they would let me slip out on lunch. Of course, you have to take the wardrobe off. And then you'd come back and, you know, I mean, you just get busy when you're hot. And if you need to memorize everything you do before you can perform it, you're not going to do well, you know? So think about that. All right, great. So there's that pre-cold reading checklist. And moving along here, I want to get into a few more points before we finish this up. Making choices, guys. This whole thing on choices, I'm just going to give this a few minutes. I do a 2-hour intensive on choices and intentions and knowing what they are and how to use them. Now, there's a lot of cool, you know, cliches that we have in the acting profession about, you know, just hip, cool things to say or to do or to know, you know, like what's your motivation and all that stuff. But choices, I find, are one of them. And I often find that actors don't make the right choice for what they're needing to do. Not in the sense of a creative right choice. I mean, they're choosing things that have nothing to do with the work. So think about this. You can make choices that have to do with things that are outside the parameter of what we're seeing. Your choices should be made on what's going to impact and affect you while the cameras are on, while the eyeballs are on you. That's where the choices need to be made. Okay? They have to affect you in there. So like if you pulled up to a bar and you go inside the bar and you're going to sit down at the bar and have a conversation with somebody else at the bar over a couple of drinks. It's not overly powerful to be thinking about what car you drove to the bar in. Now, there's a place for that, but how much is it really going to affect your dialogue, having a conversation with another person because you spent time making a choice on the vehicle you rode in on? I mean, that's just kind of, to me, it's kind of a useless choice. It's not really helping. The choice should be based on the character. What is my character? How is the character written? What is my character's objective? And what's going to make me more interesting in the dialogue that I'm speaking while I'm speaking the dialogue? That's where you want to put your choices in, and don't try to get the scenes right. Make them interesting to you. Not you as the character, but you. What choices do you make? Because that's what gives you an organic, personalized performance. Is you're bringing something that nobody else can bring because nobody else can do it your way. And that's where the uniqueness comes in. So think about that just a little bit. Okay, what I want to do right now, as we roll into the landing of this, I want to give you 10 key points that are specific points, not just general, overall, do this points. These are points that I picked up in a series. A lot of you guys know that I was in the room with the top 5 Netflix casting directors, and they were talking and speaking and sharing with the top 5 stars of the top 5 shows. And at this time, I was in the room with casting director Larae Mayfield and Julie Schubert, and they had cast the role of Big Ed Kemper, who was played by Cameron Britton in Mindhunter that particular season. Mindhunter. Okay? And these were 10 points that I walked away with from that interview with just that particular actor, Cameron Britton, sharing how he landed that leading starring role on that season of Mindhunter. Okay? So you guys can go ahead and write these things down. And this is how they unfolded right out of the interview. And like I said, I was in the room taking these notes. First thing is, they said, when they asked Cameron, how did you land the role of Big Ed Kemper? He said, you got to be trained. You can't go into a Netflix 9, 13, 15-page read for a series regular or starring role and not be trained. It's just not going to happen. Don't go in there asking questions. Go in there knowing you did your work, you got all the answers that you need, and you can't wait to put on your performance. Okay? That's number one. Know what you're doing. Be trained, be on top of it, and know what you're doing. Number two, he said to get the role, he had to not only deliver a self-tape, but after they saw the self-tape, he had to deliver a second self-tape. After they saw the second self-tape, he went in and auditioned, and auditioned, and auditioned. Now get this, 6 weeks of auditioning, and had to do 6 additional auditions over that 6 weeks. 2 self-tapes, 6 auditions. Then it got followed up by an hour-and-a-half screen test. So the process took almost 2 months. Now it's a starring leading role. Almost 2 months of being pretty much examined and tested to land that role that launches a career. Okay? Now, a lot of people listening to this, a lot of you are up and coming. You're working at co-stars. Maybe some of you are doing guesties. So how does that come down the pike? Well, here's basically the way it works. The lowest level, the simplest place that you're going to play the game is as an extra. And your qualifications for being an extra is you just got to be alive. You just got to be breathing. It's just your body. You're an extra. You're just there. It doesn't take anything away. There's no judgment on that, but you just have to be a person, and you're an extra. Okay? And if you're not a person, then you're a prop, not an extra. Okay? So basically, an extra is an alive prop to a certain degree. Now, yes, there are things involved, and I'm just saying it's the simplest way to get in is doing extra work. The next level is there's something a little bit more about you. There's a look, a feel, a dynamic that gets you to be upgraded to featured. So now it's like, ooh, now there's something you're doing that's making a big difference that you have control over. You're being featured. Now, from featured, you have a shot at an under 5 or 1 line. Here's your coffee. There you go, and you're in the pit, and the star is crossing the room, and you give the star the coffee. Here's your coffee, and that's an under 5. Okay, now you have to say something. You have to make your presence interesting. Under 5, single line. Then we go into co-star. Co-star could be a half a page of dialogue. 3 lines could be a page and a half. It's you're there. You're in the scene. It's now you're in there, but it's not a lot. You're not the story. You're part of the story. The big chasm jump goes from co-star to guest star. Now you're a significant part of that storyline. You're a big player in that show. And more responsibility, more work, more ability, more training. From there, you go into recurring. Now, recurring is they liked you, people were writing in about you, they saw opportunities to advance your character, you did a great job, they want to keep you in the ensemble, and they're going to bring you back. They're going to give you a recurring part. Then from recurring, you go into a regular. You're now a series regular. That means you're on the show regularly. You're on the call sheet, you're there, you got a regular part, you got a gig, a job. It's awesome. Okay? I've been there. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Your breakfast is waiting for you in the morning the way you want it, and it's all things are good with the world. So you want to shoot for that. Then after that, we now get into starring roles. And starring roles, well, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on that. You have to work up to qualify yourself as a star, and there's the big kahuna. Now we're at top of the call sheet. Okay, cool. That's how that breaks down. The more you are trained, experienced, your capabilities to be able to do that is going to determine how you progress along and you move, and it has a lot to do with everything that you're putting into yourself and what the demand you're putting on yourself to be disciplined, to do the work, to get the right training, and to keep moving the story along. Okay, next, moving on, it's all character work. Actors will often go in to try to get the scene right. It's not what you're doing. You're presenting yourself as the character. So keep that in mind. They're not casting the scene. They're casting you as the character, okay? In your character work, is there a uniqueness and is there truth in your character work? Now, why it sounds simple to say, but, we're lying because we're not the person we're playing, and everything going on around us is not really happening, although it needs to be because we have to make it real. And our ability to be very truthful in imaginary circumstances, where haven't you heard that before, obviously is a key core part of what an actor needs to be able to do. Make interesting characters truthful and believable. The next note is you have to change your perception of things. Not every character comes from you. Now, I know they're all us, but they don't have the same perceptions that we do. And I find that as an acting coach, a lot of highly moral, highly convicted people, meaning they have a certain way that they live their lives, and that's just how they are. Not all of them, but a lot of them have trouble branching out and doing things that aren't necessarily who they are. Like, for example, I've got a young actress in my studio. Not too long ago, I gave her a scene where she's a college student, and she comes into her professor's office and she's charming him. She's hitting on him in a very lightly flirtatious way. And I had to work my tail off as a coach to get this actress to do that because she was embarrassed by it. More development is needed. Now, fill in the blanks. It could be you being a mean person or whatever. It's the perceptions of our characters are a lot different than ourselves, and that's what makes for a really good actor. You can do things that just aren't you at all. Okay? All right. You got to make the performance incredibly real. You're not just in there to do something and to leave. You're having an experience. You're bringing real, truthful, believable life experiences of this human being to the room and sharing it with everyone else, which is the craft of acting. And it's an ongoing pursuit of getting better and better. This is why we see so many of our favorite actors, stars, well-known stars, taking on really challenging and complicated roles. I mean, Matthew McConaughey comes to mind. Of course, he's not the only one. There's tons of them. But, I mean, he's just notorious for playing all kind of crazy characters. I mean, so many people are, but I don't know. He got brought up in a conversation last night, and he just wrote a book. So, anyway, and I think most of you guys know who he is. All right. You want to get excited about receiving focused attention. Now, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but here's the way I want you to think about it right now. We go in and we get looked at, for sure. And that often tends to create nervousness and anxiety in people. Flip your dish, change your perspective, and become excited about being the focus of attention. Some of you, that's no problem. But when we're really looking in on you and really looking in on you and really looking in on you and all eyes are on you, that's not always easy. You got to build those muscles to be able to do it. I can remember one of the biggest movies I was in when I was first learning to act. It was my first big movie. It was an Oliver Stone picture. And there were 275 people, I think, on the crew sheet. I mean, this was huge. It was being shot in downtown Dallas. Anybody know the movie? Okay. And I was one of my first big, huge, humongous film sets. And I was a what did I do? I was a body double on that. I was just getting started. And I came in as a body double, so it was like I was being schooled. And I got to watch all the actors work, and it would be like, okay, shutting it down. There were like 4 first ADs on there working with Oliver Stone. It was wild. But when it was like, okay, here we go, pictures up, sound, speed, roll cameras, and all eyes, all the work stopped. All these hundreds of people just stopped, and all the focus and attention was on the acting. Now, that might sound exciting, but believe me, that's a lot of pressure. And you've got to work up to being able to handle that type of focused attention at some point. Okay, even if you have, say, a smaller part on a big movie, you still got all those people doing what they're doing. And now it's time for you to say, here's your coffee. Okay, so think about that. All right, last 2. You have to have your ability to lose yourself into the character. So we don't see an actor playing a character. We truthfully, honestly see a fully fleshed out character. And it's said that unless you're able to wake up as the character and go to sleep as the character and live 24 hours as that character without breaking character, you really don't have that character. So that should be something that you'll want to be striving for. Okay? Last one is detail, specificity, and precision. I find that actors do a lot of generalizing, and you really got to be specific, detailed, and you have to have precision in the work that you do, because that's what those type of eyes are actually looking for. Okay? These bullets will all be in the show notes if you'd like those. Again, info@claybankstudio.com, and we will get you that. I've got more to do, but here's what I want to do. We're ending this right here, okay, and this will be 3 of 5. Next week, I will be doing 4 of 5. I'll be reviewing your assignment. I'm going to give you another assignment right now that you can work on this week, and I want to let you in on something really, really cool. But before I do, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be slowly slipping into the business of pilot season, dealing with managers, agents, agencies. Who do you talk to if you want to try to get on a pilot and you don't have representation? We're going to be getting into a lot more of the business, which is going to be kind of cool, but you have to have your product ready for these opportunities, and that's why we did these 3. So for those of you that have hung back, here's a really cool insight I want to give you. I arranged to have one of my episodes of my Performance Zone. I do a show that I stream called PZTV, Performance Zone Television, and it's on our YouTube channel, claybankstudio.com. And this Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I am going to be interviewing a SAG-AFTRA delegate, and we are going to be discussing pilot season in this climate and what's going on with the union and what's going on with productions, what's happening with studios and production companies, and what's going on with pilot season, and all this kind of really nuts and bolts about pilot season. So I was able to get him in, and we're going to be going up live on our Facebook channel and our Instagram, 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time this Friday. Okay, so you're going to want to keep an eye out for that, because we're going to be covering a lot of really, really cool things. Okay, and pass that on and share it with your friends, because it's going to just be an intensive on the business of pilot season from a SAG-AFTRA delegate, which is going to be very, very cool. Okay, so I'm wrapping this up. Here's your assignment. If you're still watching and playing along at home, fantastic. I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to work with a time pie chart, if you're not doing this already, or a time calendar, and work in 2 hours a day into your schedule. You get 24, you're sleeping for probably 8, you got about 16, maybe you're working for some of those, whatever. Work 2 hours a day in your schedule, anywhere, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it works for you, where you can disconnect from the internet, social media, your phone, and you can nurture your creative artist. Okay? I call these artist adventures. If you do a search on my site or on my blogs or anything like that, even on Backstage, I write for Backstage magazine, you can find out more about artist adventures and get into the real nitty-gritties on how to keep your creative genius amazing. And also, in wrapping this up, I would like you to work on visualizing what you want to do with your pilot season. Spend some time focusing and visualizing. Okay? I got to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been awesome. Again, I'm Coach Clay Banks here at Claybank Studio. You can find us at claybankstudio.com. And until we see you guys again, be safe out there, and God bless you.